Hello, my friend. Welcome to this week's energy reading for the Sagittarius full moon. So, this week is going to be a little bit different, given current events. I felt like this was a good opportunity to talk about some of the astrology and how it is affecting our society, affecting our culture, our globe, and especially the United States. Um, yeah, and I'm just definitely feeling intuitively, you know, there's internal chaos because of external chaos. Um, but it also feels like with the Sagittarius full moon, Sagittarius rules the truth. Um, it is represented by the arrow, the archer. And so the message I keep getting from spirit is knowing that the environment right now does not represent like the whole picture. And what we're currently dealing with is just an aspect of what's happening in reality. And we're really needing to look at this from a perspective of how can we shift things forward? How can we understand the grand scheme of what's happening? Okay, and I know that sounds like really meta, and we're going to get into like some more of, again, the astrology of what's going on um, with this video. So, what I've just been picking up on, and something that I personally love about astrology is how literal it can be. And so I wanted to just point out some of the transits that are happening right now, um, in light of, again, current events. So, like I said, I think the full moon in Sag is illuminating a truth that we've all been afraid of seeing. And I think this is true in a lot of ways. Obviously not just in the global sense or the current events, but in our personal lives as well. Really being able to see things for how they are. Um, we also have Mars is in Leo. Um, so Mars is in a fire sign. Things feel very explosive. There is a show of conflict. There is, because Leo rules like showmanship, entertainment. Well, not entertainment, but just showmanship, things being broadcasted, things being put out there. And Mars is the planet of conflict. We have Jupiter. Let's see. Jupiter is down here. Just moved into Cancer today. I'm filming this on Monday evening, so June 9th. So Jupiter just moved into Cancer. Cancer rules the home. And Jupiter is we call it a benefic planet, meaning it's like an expander. It magnifies things. But I think something that a lot of astrologers don't talk about is that it expands anything and everything. So this could be good and bad things at home, right? And obviously obviously what's going on, people are being taken out of their homes. So I just think it's interesting that a lot of this is happening as Jupiter literally moved into Cancer. We also obviously have the Sun in Gemini, which is all about spreading information, um, researching, all of that sort of energy. And then we have Pluto in Aquarius, and that's going to be up here to your left, up at the top. And Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto is the planet of, I know I've talked about this on my channel before. Pluto is the planet of power, but it's also the planet of transformation, of death. So, and Aquarius is groups of people, of cultures, of societies. Okay? So, the message that I'm getting from Spirit about this is yes, there is a lot of chaos right now, and there is a lot of pain, and there is a lot of trauma. And I think the feeling that I get with it is that it's again this feeling of like needing to expose all of these things, needing to see all of these things so that we can choose differently, so that we can understand what's going on in our system. Okay? I think the message I'm getting for all of you is really sitting with let me sit on this for a second. Really sitting with who you came here to be. There's another transit that's coming to mind right now. Saturn in Aries. Aries is the planet of the warrior. So I, again, don't think it's a coincidence that Saturn just moved into Aries about a month ago. And there we have a lot of Aries. We also have Neptune in Aries. We have Chiron in Aries. Um, so I get the feeling that Saturn in Aries is, again, giving responsibility to individual people, giving responsibility for us to, with Saturn in Pisces, is a kind of like put your head in the sand. And Saturn in Aries is a little bit more of how are you going to motivate yourself? How are you going to embrace conflict? How are you going to, how are you as an individual going to create structure, create change? Create stability. Okay. And I also want to read, before I started this reading, I was guided to look at um, the mythology behind Sagittarius in one of my astrology books. And I found it really interesting. So I'm going to read the little description of Sagittarius and um, what the mythology is behind the constellation of Sagittarius. So, um, Sagittarius is the ninth sign of the zodiac. He is a centaur, the mythological creature who is half man and half horse. Sagittarius is the only astrological sign to have both a human and animal representation. The constellation of Sagittarius, however, is not just any centaur. It is the great and wise Chiron, a son of the Titan god Saturn. Chiron was a friend and confidant of both gods and men. The gods taught Chiron the arts of medicine, hunting and writing, music, and prophecy. In turn, Chiron himself became a renowned teacher. Among his famous pupils were Achilles, Jason, Castor and Pollux, and Hercules. One day, while the great Hercules was hunting a dangerous boar, he accidentally struck Chiron in the knee with a poisonous shaft. Chiron suffered the agony of dying, but because he was immortal, he could not die. Hercules promised to find death to release him. On his journey, Hercules came across poor Prometheus, chained throughout eternity to a rock where an eagle tore at his liver. The supreme god Jupiter had put a curse on Prometheus. His torture would last until someone of his own free will consented to suffer in his place. The dying Chiron took Prometheus's place. thus the curse was fulfilled. Chiron was allowed to die, and Prometheus was set free by Hercules. After Chiron's death, Jupiter rewarded his noble character by placing the heroic centaur among the stars, and he became the constellation Sagittarius. So, again, I get this sense that, and I found it interesting with um, Sagittarius of talking about like prophecies and destinies, because there does seem to be a sense of, again, this upheaval and this chaos as being fated, there being a sense of, and again, I'm not saying that like we wish upon these things, but these things needing to be uprooted and upheavaled. And again, I'm not like wishing that these things happen to people or saying that this is, and it could have been in a different way. But I think we all needed to be alerted to what needs to be changed. And there is a sense of we can no longer like have the wool pulled over our eyes or our eyes being covered because it's so obvious of what needs to be changed. Um, it's also interesting. It's what I keep picking up on too with the story of like Chiron, um, being in suffering because he can't die because he's immortal, and then Prometheus like um being slowly basically tortured to death. Is there's this sense of like sacrifice, and we are all being asked to sacrifice something of ourselves right now and to really dig deep and ask ourselves what it is that we need to look at, change, or enact. And Hercules going out of his way to help Chiron and fulfill that prophecy. And again, there's like this sense of, because Prometheus had been stuck in this fate and then in this cycle for so long until Chiron was injured, that there is this sense that, you know, sometimes those injuries lead to the fulfillment and culmination of a destiny. And again, I'm not saying that I wish those injuries on people or would want those things. Obviously, if there was an easier way, that would be the best way. But I'm just looking at it from, again, like a mythological, astrological kind of perspective and giving you guys an opportunity to maybe sit back and think like, what is this asking of me right now? How am I being how am I being asked to look at this situation, and what can I do about it? And where am I being prompted to look at things? And I think too, like again with Jupiter in Cancer, and we also have Mercury in Cancer, I think there is a lot of like nurturing and intuitiveness and people really feeling like I want to there's a beautiful energy in that because it's like being really compassionate and being really empathetic and being really understanding. And as a Scorpio myself, I can definitely feel the energy of um, people around us just kind of being um, chaotic, of people being hurt, of people being upset. Um, so I feel like that's all that I wanted to say about the astrology, but I do want to pull some cards. All right. Shuffle. Spirit, pressure me what I need to know. Um, so the first card is the Pleiades, and it says double mission, channeling and uplifting humanity. So I get the sense that it's almost like, okay, so what they're showing me is right now we are all being asked, we all have like our day jobs, right? We have our um how we make money, how we make a living. And then there's like these bigger purposes of us all being alive at this time right now and making decisions and making choices um, based on us living in this time. And so there's this feeling of like there's a double mission that we're all here to serve. And it's so much bigger than, again, just our day jobs, just our how we show up for work, that each of us is being asked to really unearth. And I think there's something I haven't really touched on with Sagittarius. Sagittarius rules philosophy. So we're really being confronted with what our values are, what our philosophies are on life, on um, where we live, on our government, on all of these things that, you know, 20 years ago, we kind of let most of us, the general society, kind of just let go by or just accept it as status quo. And the reason why a lot of this feels so chaotic right now is because we can't just accept that anymore. And we're really being asked to look at our philosophies on all of these things. The next card is Answer the Call. This is the one I was kind of chuckling at because, again, it's like Sagittarius is a fire sign. And so you are being asked to take action in some way. Maybe not right now, maybe not at this exact moment or on um, Wednesday night at midnight when this full moon hits, or Tuesday night at midnight, technically. Um, Tuesday going into Wednesday. But it's about really asking yourself like what truth is for you and listening to that and answering it. And again, I'm not saying like on Wednesday you're going to have this epiphany and it's going to all be answered, but I think it's cultivating this sense within yourself. The next card is the Initiation, which doesn't surprise me. And it says rite of passage, you're going somewhere sacred. So again, there is this sense of um there's a sense of darkness and chaos right now. And we are all being asked to trust that at the end of the tunnel, and this is kind of what I was saying, at the end of the tunnel, there we are going towards something sacred, towards the, if you want to get really woo, the 5D, towards the this ideal society of love and peace and happiness. And sometimes what happens with that is, again, that there is an upheaval and there is hurt and there is pain. And you know, I wish I could say that that's not how it was going to be, but that's part of being human, right? This polarity, and we're really being shown the contrast right now. The next card is Mirror. And it says who or what is triggering you. The other thing that I'm going to say with this that I haven't really touched on is and I just keep hearing it, really being mindful of the media right now, being mindful of what media you are consuming, being mindful of, um, yeah, I'm just hearing being mindful of the media. Um, they also have their own agendas, okay? Everything in the universe essentially has its own agenda, it has its own intentions, right? And it's our job just to filter what intention aligns with yours. So I really want you to just be again mindful and really try to keep your channel clear, um, keep your energy clear, keep your energy centered as much as you can, and again, be very mindful of the media and what media you are consuming, because that seems to be a big, and again, that's not to say like put your head in the sand and ignore everything, um, but it is to say just be mindful of that. Okay. And the last card is Pillar of Light. Your vibration is rising. You are the oracle. Um, Let me see. So what they're saying, and again, this is kind of the Sagittarius of like Sagittarius energy of really connecting to values. Um, we all really need to hold a vision together. And I think something that often happens in our society is really getting stuck on he said oh, that was weird, my candle just went out. um Really being stuck on he said she said, on right versus wrong. And what I'm really wanting to convey to you is that even within truth there is nuance, right? Like we are all on this in the search for truth and finding truth for ourselves. So there are many truths, even if they're it's like even if we're all searching for one truth, there are many truths. And so what we really need to hold the vision of is one of peace, of love, of healing. And the more energy we put towards that, towards love and healing and peace, the more that that reality will actually come to fruition. Okay. And I know that sounds like spiritual mumbo jumbo. Um, but I also think it's really important. And I think, Saturn and Aries, I know I keep talking like ad nauseum about that, but it's Saturn and Aries is taking action on the things that we know. It's taking responsibility for those things. Well, they're laughing. They're like, kind of, because Aries isn't necessarily the most responsible. But it's taking action on those things. And again, holding the vision of what it is that we want to create, not continuing to add to more division, not adding to more hate, it's just like really being again mindful of how we are all contributing to division. Um, and how we can really get together and create a more unified and more loving existence in our society and in our world. All right. Okay. I feel like they said that was good. They're like, yeah, okay, that feels complete. Um, so I'm sending you all lots of love. Again, I know there's a lot of like heavy, chaotic energy right now. Um, I wish I could come here with, being my usually more joyful and chipper self. Um, but it just doesn't feel like the energy right now, so I have to honor that. But yeah, I'm sending you all a lot of love. If you all need anything, please let me know. And yeah, I'll be thinking of you all. All right, talk to you soon.